they will know 100% that Bruno Guimarães definitely wants to go to Arsenal. We kind of know that anyway, because he's kind of intimated privately to Newcastle United that if, and it's a big if, Arsenal meet a price that they are comfortable with, that they feel is his valuation, he would be open to speaking to them and open to joining them. He doesn't want to be that player who is in the Isak scenario where he's not going to go on strike, he's not going to do any of that. He understands the position that Newcastle United are in. I would expect Arsenal to make some sort of formal move sooner rather than later on this, because it's gone so far down the line behind the scenes for it not to go anywhere. So it's clear the player wants to go and Arsenal want him. The problem Newcastle United have got is, well, on the positive side, he's under contract. They're under no pressure to do any business. But again, the will of the player. And if he really wants to go, then Newcastle United are going to have a decision to make.
Back to them for 40 million and essentially balancing that out, right? So they're not in that position. So the idea that Arsenal were broke and not willing to spend money is ridiculous when we know that they've offered around 65 million for Bruno G and they were willing to pay up to 90 million pounds for Morgan Rogers. And even the journalists that broke the hijack news have said the same thing. I think one of the reasons why they're not willing at this point, and it's a risk and it's a calculated risk, to go massively over the top for Bruno G and Morgan Rogers and do the 170 scene themselves and match it. Because what would be very interesting is if they'd have matched it, who would he have picked? I kind of would love to have seen the outcome of that. If they do 117 on Morgan Rogers and then they do 90 on Bruno G just to get the deals done, there may not be the money to then sign Alvarez if he becomes available. And it is most certainly a gamble. There is no doubt in my mind. There's been parts of this summer, especially before the World Cup began, when the bids were going in from Madrid and Barca, when most people were expecting, and I certainly was, to see an Arsenal update that said Arsenal have cooled their interest and they've moved on to other targets. And they have never done that. There is a world here where they may have, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, and maybe they've walked away from a deal they could have got because they're pursuing what they think is better.
Your analogy.
Am I on it today, right? I'm on it with the analogy. Well, that's a good one, right? The bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. And
never heard that in my life, but fair enough.
Have you never heard a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush?
I'll be honest, I've never heard that either.
Have you never heard that? You two are so uncultured. It is unbelievable.
Hey, I had tapas the other night. I am not uncultured.
That is such an old saying, right? How old is it? A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Let's see how old this is.
That just reinforces the point, mate. You're just not down with the kids. That's what it is.
Mate, it's been around since the 16th century. That's how old that saying is, right? It's been around since the 1500s, bruv. But over 500 years it's existed for, and you two ain't heard of it. But anyway, so from my point of view and perspective, right, they're taking a risk, Arsenal. But it's a risk that if it pays off, I think could pay huge dividends for them. I don't also disagree. I get why they didn't want to spend 117 million pounds on Morgan Rogers. The question then is, who do you go for? Where I'll defend some Arsenal fans. Some wanted Rogers. They don't get no backtrack ability now. But we have Arsenal fans that come on our shows like Seb, as a case in point, who didn't want him in the first place. And I think what happens in the social media world is we're all guilty of doing this at times. We lump all fans into the same category, right?
Yeah.
So you'll get people like if Chelsea end up having a really good season, Louis is going to celebrate.
People come for me. People already started.
People will be like, hang on, you don't get to do that because you slagged off Blueco, said they were going to get us relegated, right? So there's always two sides to it. But equally, there are a lot of Arsenal fans who didn't want Morgan Rogers. None of them said he was a bad player, by the way, on my shows. What they said is they need touchline wingers. So I also think there's a world where actually because PSG, by the way, might walk away from Yan Diomande as an example, that they might now walk away from him. You've got Barcola, who I think in some respects might be a better signing, a touchline winger for Arsenal at that level. But I also think if Alvarez is to come in, I think one of Kai Havertz or Gyökeres goes. And honestly, a lot of people keep talking about Gyökeres. I think it'd be Kai Havertz they're cashing on, because I think Kai Havertz is one more big injury away from never getting back to the top. He's missed 2/3 of the last two seasons injured. No one's really talking about it, which I find strange. And I wouldn't trust the guy's hamstrings anymore. Not when he's had that amount of time out, the age that he is. if they could get someone to give 50 million for him whilst getting Julian Alvarez, the upgrade for me is astronomical. Because I think Julian Alvarez is such a top player, but it's a very hard deal to get. It's a very hard deal to get over the line. So that's my take on it. I do hear your point. And listen, if they end up with no Rodgers, no Barcola, no Yan Diomande, no Alvarez, if they end up signing a decent winger like an Ndiaye, who, by the way, I think is good, could they come in for Marcus Rashford? Maybe. Like, I don't think that's
the unlogical one. Seems the
that's
unlogical move.
I just look at those players and I just think a level below the others. Now, actually, this be fair, you probably find Rashford right now is better than the Yan Diomande. But in terms of ceiling and where they can get to in their careers, so maybe some would say Rashford's better than Barcola in 2026. Some might not. I think Barcola is so underrated at the minute. I watched him at the World Cup. The 3 or 4 goals he scored are not the kind of goals someone who's not clinical scores. They were all so clinical.
130 million, though, is a lot.
It is. It is.
He's not worth 130 million pounds. He's clinical when he wants to be. I think from what I've seen watching him in the Champions League and then a few games I've watched in Ligue 1, like he gets in front of goal. He does miss more than he scores, but when he does score, they are clinical finishes. That's the problem.
But everybody does. Lionel Messi, in his greatest ever goal-scoring season, only had a conversion rate of 18%, which means he's missing 4 of his 5 shots. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think and even big chances, right? So I am defending him, but I'm defending him because I think we need to have these conversations in football. If we go and look, for instance, at Erling Haaland, I'm going to go get his statistics up here. We look at Erling, we look at player stats here. Here we go. I think there is a stat for this. Sometimes you have to, it's not always on the website. Sometimes you actually have to search for it.
Well, yeah, so where would City finish without Erling Haaland? You can probably look that up in the Footy Labs as well.
So Premier League would do that. Most big chances missed, right? So
just when it looked like Arsenal's transfer window had gone quiet, everything has exploded back into life. Reports are now claiming Bruno Guimarães has agreed terms over a sensational move to the Emirates, and even more remarkably, the Gunners are already being linked with a blockbuster pursuit of Bradley Barcola. If both transfers happen, Mikel Arteta could be assembling one of the most dangerous squads in Europe. For weeks, Arsenal supporters have been waiting for a breakthrough. Now, it feels like that moment may finally have arrived. Bruno Guimarães has long been admired by Arteta. The Newcastle United captain is regarded as one of the Premier League's elite midfielders, combining relentless work rate with exceptional technical quality and the leadership qualities that every title-winning team needs. According to the latest transfer speculation, Arsenal have moved significantly closer to securing the Brazilian's signature after reaching an agreement with the player over personal terms. If that proves to be true, it would represent one of the biggest moments of the summer. But there's still one enormous hurdle. Newcastle United. The Magpies have made it clear throughout the window that Bruno is one of the cornerstones of their project. Selling their captain would require an extraordinary offer, and negotiations with the club remain the key obstacle before any transfer could become official. Even so, Arsenal supporters have every reason to be excited. Imagine Bruno Guimarães lining up alongside Declan Rice. Add Martin Odegaard just ahead of them. Suddenly, Arsenal would have a midfield capable of dominating virtually any opponent in Europe. Rice provides the power. Odegaard supplies the creativity. Bruno delivers everything in between. He presses relentlessly, wins possession high up the pitch, controls the tempo, breaks opposition lines with progressive passing and never hides when the pressure is at its highest. Those are exactly the qualities Arteta has been searching for. But here's where the story takes another dramatic twist. The Bruno saga might only be the beginning. Reports are now linking Arsenal with a surprise move for Paris Saint-Germain winger Bradley Barcola. At first glance, it sounds almost too ambitious. Barcola has developed into one of the brightest young attackers in European football. His blistering pace, fearless dribbling and ability to create chances from almost nothing have made him one of PSG's most exciting players. So why would Arsenal believe a deal is possible? The answer lies in opportunity. Transfer windows change quickly. Clubs reshape their priorities. New signings arrive. Competition for places increases. And suddenly, players who once looked untouchable become available under the right circumstances. That's exactly why Arsenal are keeping a close eye on the situation. Arteta has made no secret of his desire to add greater depth and unpredictability in attack. While Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli remain key figures, the club know that competing across 4 competitions demands world-class options in every forward position. Barcola would bring something completely different.